Today on the workbench, I've got a new project here. This is a Rivarossi Class H8, a 2666 Allegheny. This is one of my all-time favorite locomotives. I do have one of the original run of this. This is a brand new one. This is the run that just come out here in 2024. This is the DC version, and it is DCC ready. And what I'm going to install in this, I know I'm going to use this decoder, the Blunami decoder in it, 21 pin. It is set up for that in the tender. And I am going to be installing some scale sound system speakers in this. I'm not sure which ones yet. And I'll also be installing I think there should be enough room in the tender for a Soundtraxx Current Keeper. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to lay this back, put it back up on its wheels. It is really, really detailed. It comes with another cab that you can put on it if you have tighter curves. I think this one's set up for, is it 25-inch radius curves with this cab on it. The other cab has a deeper cut in it, so the cab is narrower. The windows are narrower. So, but I'm gonna leave it set up like this. It does have a lot of detail parts that come with it. I haven't put any on. I just pulled this out of the box. So we'll take this apart here in a little bit. The main part of this is going to be back here in the tender. We've got one light. That's really not supposed to be a light. It's painted silver. Of course, it could be a light. I'm not sure, but it is painted silver, so we're not going to worry about that. But let's go ahead and see if we can get this apart without too much trouble. There's a screw right here. I don't think I'm going to have to take the coupler off. I think really all I'll have to do is pull this one screw out, and then this should lift right off. So let me kind of zoom in here a little bit. So a lot of people have recently started getting comments about, what tools do I use? So to start with, of course, I like these, really like these WIA screwdrivers, and there's the size of that. I've got a whole set of these, probably 50 plus of these things. I think I've got every micro screwdriver that they make. They are really, really nice. So anyway, all right, like I said, we've got the one screw up there, and then that just pulls right out. So super, 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 super simple. Now we'll pull out, this is our DC jumper board. We'll take that out. I'll put that back in the box. Now this this locomotive's different than the big boy. The Rivarossi big boy had the decoder in the locomotive itself, up in the boiler, and it was a really simple install. So yeah, I'll put the decoder in this, and then we'll see. I've got a Scale Sound Systems speaker that they actually made for the big boy, and it may fit in this tender even with all this in it. But let me get this out. And I'll have to check. I don't know if this thing came with speakers in it or not. But to put the decoder in, so here's our decoder. We'll just slap that in here. Slide it right on. And basically our install is done at that point. At this point, if this has speakers in it. But course, we're going to change that. So let me just pull this up, because there are openings in this for speakers. Okay, so it does not come with a speaker. So that is just a weight. Now they do have a place in that speaker, or in that weight, that you could put a speaker, but we're not going to use that. So what I may end up having to do to get the sound out of this locomotive is pull this board off, pull the factory board off, and drill this weight. That might be the way to go with that. So let me pull this off. There, we can take that out. And dumb me, I should have left one of those in. Just to be able to pull up on that. So there you can see in the bottom of that tender the holes for the speaker, if it came with a speaker. And here's the bottom of the weight. So I think what I'll do is I'll cut some slots. I'll take this and put it on the mill, and I'll slot this out. Actually, I won't have to do it right there. I can just cut into that, and yeah. That'll give us a place for our sound to escape. And I shouldn't have put that back on there again. Of course, if I didn't want any weight in it, I could just take that big speaker and lay right in it. Okay, here's the Scale Sound System speaker. And this is the full force range. The big boy is actually what JT calls this. So, let's see. I'm going to put all this kind of back together temporary. Just lay that together. Okay, so there is room to lay that, fasten that to the top of the tender. Put that up in there, get that situated, and then you can see it. Yeah, I can fasten that basically right in that tender, just like that. And then, of course, I'll mill this weight out, and that'll give us our speaker. So let me go mill this, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've got this weight slotted out, and I did not weigh this to see how much weight that I took out of it. I mean, it's minimal, very minimal. So we'll put that in there, and of course you can see the holes through the bottom of that. So if I needed to or wanted to add more weight, I could always just lift that up and put something in there. But like I say, I'm not going to have to. This thing is plenty heavy. It's not like I'm going to be pulling 100-car trains with this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put the screws back in it. And these screws are different. These have a coarse thread for the plastic. The ones in there do have a machine thread. So if you do take this apart, be careful of which screws you put back in it. So pull that out. Now I'll take and put this back in. Of course, we got to wire our speaker yet. So right here's our installation so far. We'll have plenty of air gap there to where the sound can come out. And I think we'll be good. Well, I know we'll be good. I don't have to worry about that. But anyway, let's go ahead. There's some pieces of like flash in there. I'm going to cut those out. This is a pair of flush cutting end nippers. And they are made by Xuron, Xuron, I believe. But either way. Come out of there. And that plastic is just a little thick for these, but some of that you can see that it'll cut right through. And the current keeper, I'll be able to probably be able to tape it right there to that little part there. Let me get that out. So here's the current keeper. There's the part number for it up there on top, and I've already opened that, so we'll get that out of the way. And like I say, this will fit nicely up in here out of the way. I'll be able to put it right on that. And then I'll have to solder that to the pins on the board. So let's get out I'll get out a cotton swab, and then we'll clean this off and then be able to stick that in there. So just kind of wipe that down a little bit. And wipe that down. Doesn't matter which side I put this on. And we'll get out our trusty old 3M tape. And then I can cut a piece of that. So now, the toughest part of the job. And that one went relatively easy. And these tweezers too. There's the number for the tweezers, but I really like those tweezers. I've got a bunch of Wea tweezers. And that tape grabs immediately. Once it touches something, it wants to stick. Okay, there's our keep alive, and I'll have enough wire here that I'll be able to cut this off and get that to my pins. But now I want to go ahead and I'm going to solder some wire to the speaker, and we can get it mounted in here the way I want to. So I'll do that off camera and then I'll be back. Alright, I've got the speaker mounted in, and of course you saw me put in the current keeper, and I've got the speaker wired here. Now what I'd like to do, I'm going to wire this up right now just for the one speaker, since it just comes with the one speaker from the factory. But eventually I'll probably take the locomotive apart and see if I can put a speaker underneath one of these sand domes. That would give me some sound up front. But anyway, I want to go ahead, and there is a place on this motherboard for the speakers, so we've got that. This current keeper, however, I'm going to go ahead and cut this plug off, and I want to cut that off just as close as I can there, because I keep these plugs. They are handy to have around. So I'll keep that, and I have to pull, I don't know why I'm getting those out, pull my decoder back off, and I'll solder it directly to the pins. So well, if I can keep a hold of this thing. So we'll get these stripped off. And then I'll get out some flux here. I just kind of keep that little piece of metal around, use it as a little pallet. So let's see, get this to take some solder, get our negative side here to take some solder. Alright, now our negative is pin 15. That's the positive. So let me start with that since I'm closest to that side. And it'll be, let's see, let me move this up a little bit. And we can zoom in. So this is pin 1. And then we'll come down, we'll come up from, let me get something small here. will come up from this one, will come up 3. That third one right there, that'll be pin 20. So we'll take and put just a little bit of flux. Actually, I'm going to flux that all the way across. That way I'll have it for the next one also. Clean that tip off. And I may have to turn this. Get the locomotive out of the way. I'll turn that. That way I can get my solder in there. Actually, I'm going to have to do this off camera and get my magnifier out. Alright, I'll be back in a minute. But then I'll show you what I've got. Okay, you can see there that I've got the current keeper soldered into that. Let me see if I can zoom down on that. So, I don't know if it'll focus or not. It's not going to focus down that low. See if I can keep something on it there to where it'll... Nope. Okay. But you can see that I've got it soldered, and you can find that information on Soundtraxx. So, on their website, or on their videos on YouTube. But anyway, let's turn this thing back around. Now, we can go ahead with our speaker wiring. I should have cut these the same length, just because. And we'll go ahead, get my little palette out that I've got my flux on. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to take and put a little flux on those 2 pads. It doesn't matter which one we use. Well, if I can get that out of my fingers. Okay, so there we have everything hooked up. We're ready to put this back together and test it out. And I'll do that, then I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back here. This so I've got the one speaker in the tender. And that works out really, really well. So it does have a good sound to it. But now I think I want to try and put something up here in the boiler. So to get this apart, there, well, that little hatch right there just pops off. You can see I just pried that off with my fingernail. And then there's one screw there that we should be able to take out and then lift the top off. At least that's the plan. So far, and I'm trying to be careful here. Okay, there it is. One screw holds that on. Now, this is a, you can't see that, this is an 8-pin plug, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8-pin plug, and it looks like all the wires are being used. I was hoping that they had a couple of spares in there. That way I could use the wires. But we have 2 for the motor, 2 for each pickup, and then there's 2 for the light. So, not going to be able to do anything with that plug. So I'll take and order a 2-pin plug to be able to connect the speakers together. And the other thing I'll do is, I'm going to put speakers, I'm going to go for 2 in this. I'll put one under each sand dome. And I think, and I have one, I don't think I have anything else that'll fit. I have a 9 by 15 by 20 scale sound system speaker. Let me see if that should fit in there quite nicely. Yes, it does. So, we've got that. I may go ahead and tape that in there, and then I'll put this together just to see if it works. So, I'll get out my alcohol here. And I'll put the double-sided tape on this, clean this out. Break out the double-sided tape. Get that on there. And then we'll get this paper off here. I have to finagle this around. Alright, so there's a speaker, and there'll be plenty of room in here for the sound to get out. So now, take it. Try and push this thing back together, so it doesn't go back together as easily as it came apart. Either that or I'm hitting, which I shouldn't be. That's all the way back. So let me do this off camera to try to get it back together. Alright, that speaker would not work in there. I couldn't get the shell back on. So now I'll have to see, I'll look through the list of speakers and see if I can find something smaller than that one. I should have tried it in this back dome. Well, no, it's going to hit that. It's right over top of that motor, and that's what it was hitting last time with this one. So, not going to be able to put at least that speaker in that sand dome. So let me look on the website and see what I can find. Alright, so I went through the Scale Sound Systems catalog, and wouldn't you know it, the speaker that I ended up buying, turn that around there, the speaker that I ended up buying, actually two speakers that I bought, are for the new Rapido 44 tonner. These things are, so JT has two versions of the speaker for the 44 tonner. If you have one of those, you'll know that the factory speaker slides down in a little pocket. So this will fit right in there, and you could be able to leave the interior of the cab in it. Now the one that I just did, I pulled the interior of the cab out and used the other speaker for that locomotive. But anyway, these speakers are 6 millimeters deep. They're 11 millimeters wide and 18 millimeters long. So they will fit perfectly into these sand domes. So we'll be able to set them in there like that. And we'll get them wired up. And I've also got this TCS wiring harness for this. This is a two-pin connector. So we'll be able to run that right back through, and yeah, we'll have this all hooked up. So I'll have to pull out the tender and take it apart so that I can see what I've got to do. But first I'm going to go ahead and put wire on these two speakers, and then we'll go from there. So I'll do that off camera, and then I'll come back and show you what I've done. Okay, so I've got the speakers mounted in the shell, and I've got my new wiring harness hooked up, and I'll make all this neater here after a bit. But so what we've got, let me get something to point with. This is series parallel is what this is, and I'll post a picture of this. So we've got our two speakers up here in the shell. They're wired in parallel, positive to positive, negative to negative. Now to go to the wiring harness and back to the board back here, I've got my white wire hooked to the negative side of these two speakers. It comes back and hooks to the positive side of the speaker in the tender. Now the positive side comes back through the harness in the black wire, and the black wire goes directly to the motherboard. So, and of course then we've got our negative wire from the speaker up here. It goes back to the motherboard. So everything is hooked up, and like I say, I'll put a picture of that in there so you can see it a little better. But that gives us 12 ohms on the resistance, which is well within tolerance. So yeah, and the reason I wanted to do that is I wanted to have sound up front. I don't want all the sound back in the tender. So, and I mean, it's just a slight, it's a slight difference, but you can hear it. So I'm going to get all this tidied up, and the other thing I did do is I had to drill a small hole here in the shell to get that wire through. But other than that, I mean, it's just straightforward. So we'll get all of it put together, and then the next time you see this, it'll be up on the test track. All right, we've got this locomotive up on the test track here, and got it all put together. Now, I didn't go ahead and I didn't put the detail parts on this thing, so if you see some things that might be missing, I'll just go ahead and tell you I didn't put them in. But of course, we've got the Blunami decoder, a 3-scale sound system speakers, Soundtraxx Current Keeper. So yeah, this project turned out really nice. Behind it I've got a Challenger sitting, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, let's kind of go through this so you can hear the horn. Let me back it up a little bit. There, turn the rear light on, and you can hear the dynamo kick in. Now, this does have a firebox, light in the firebox, but you can't see that. So I'm gonna put this on 128 speed steps. I'm gonna back it up here. Of course, you could hear the bell there. We've got our horn, or the whistle. That's the long whistle. Short whistle. Let me go ahead and there you can see the headlight. Of course, like I say, the only lighting functions on this are the headlight, the rear headlight, and the firebox. So let's go ahead and we'll pull this forward. Now, Soundtraxx does have a neat little thing here, the wheel slippage. Of course, it doesn't work at that low speed. There you go. It doesn't work at speed step 1, evidently. So, anyway, you can see it's got some pretty nice low speed. And again, there was the wheel slip. So let's slow that down. We'll put it in reverse. You can see that rear light. Get it moving here. There's speed step 3. Alright, so yeah, it was a nice little project to do, short and sweet. So, alright, thanks for watching.